This is BKL Nightly, the Buffalo Gameday Recap edition. I'm Thad Brown, along with Caleb Carr. Bills knock off the Steelers 26-7. A lot of good stuff to get to from the Bills in this game, offensively and defensively. Joey Bosa probably the play of the game. A lot of different ins and outs in terms of what really got this Bills team going. And Caleb, one thing I want to start with is something that I was kind of surprised was talked about in the locker room apparently after the game, and that's the play late in the first half where Josh Allen slid and got hit by Patrick Queen. And you and I both thought it should have been a late hit. The broadcast thought it should have been a late hit. I think most Bills fans would agree.
Yeah.
It wasn't the worst in the world. I can understand it not being called. It wasn't a hit to the head or neck area. So you get away with avoiding a 15-yard penalty that way. But apparently the Bills in the locker room said that got them going emotionally. Now look, far be it from me to tell the Bills how they felt during the game. But it wasn't like the Buffalo Bills scored a touchdown after that play. They got stopped on a field goal. They were going to go for it on fourth down, but jumped offside, it was a false start, backed up, kicked a 3. And then the play that really got the Bills going, at least on the field, was a sack fumble that wasn't Joey Bosa doing anything dominating. It was a coverage sack. Give Joey Bosa credit for making the play, but none of that is anything that I would equate with, look at the Bills getting the juices flowing. To me, it was just good defense. You won down the field. Your pass rusher got to a quarterback, and you forced a fumble and scored.
Yeah,
Give me your take.
I find it hard to, again, I don't want to be the judge of what gets them fired up and what doesn't, but I find it hard to believe that, to start the third quarter, they were still thinking about that was the thing that was on the top of their minds. Now, maybe it was. Maybe they went into the locker room and Sean McDermott was looking at the first half and was like, dude, there's nothing out there.
Right.
Like, we're not getting anything. And he was just like, hey, guys, remember when he hit Josh Allen? We hated that, right?
Yeah.
And then everyone was like, yeah, and they went out there. Maybe, I don't know, who knows what happened. But I think it's more likely that it just got them fired up in that moment. And then that maybe grew into, a motivated halftime speech. And then that grew, off of that stemmed one good, really, really good defensive play. And then all of that combined was just kind of like, okay, now we're off. Now we're good. Now we're going. Yeah, I agree with you that it's just, it's tough for a play like that where they then get a field goal and then they go to the second half. They go into the locker room at
Sit
halftime.
through a halftime, a 13-minute halftime. Exactly.
I find it hard to believe that high energy from that one play kind of went through all the way and was the main factor. But I do think that it probably definitely, had a contribution.
I agree with that. There's no doubt that it seemed like Sean McDermott said the sideline went a little bananas after the play. So you can definitely believe or reasonably understand why the juices got flowing there. Calling that maybe the turning point of the game feels a little much to me. But let's talk about the play itself because that was 100% the turning point of the game, the Joey Bosa sack. To me, this was a nice microcosm of what the Bills did best, I would argue, in the game period, but certainly on defense. And that is the coverage down the field felt ridiculously good all night long. Going to have a good time watching it on the All-22 the next couple of days. But there were many times when Aaron Rodgers, a guy who has no interest holding the ball for any length of time because he's 40 whatever and he's a smart 40 whatever, in that you don't want to be taking on these 25-year-old giants who can run 4 whatever 40s. And yet he was in there dancing around, trying to find time, escaping the pocket. The Bills or the Steelers rolled him out a few times early in the game. It felt like the Bills won a lot down the field. And even on that play, one of the things that stuck out to me, Cole Bishop ends up one-on-one with DK Metcalf on that play and takes him away. Now, it might have been a situation where Metcalf could have gotten a throw if Aaron Rodgers gets it over the top, but he's dealing with so much garbage back there and nothing really being available that whatever Bishop did was enough. The Bills won in the secondary and with the linebackers today, and that to me was the number one part of this game, at least on defense.
I completely agree with you. Now, I don't want to get too, like when we look forward, I know we're talking about kind of this game, but when you look forward to the rest of the season and you look at the state of the secondary, I don't want to get too excited because this Steelers wide receiver group, Court, it's not anything to write home about.
It's not Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
It's not. But it's still DK Metcalf, who, although he doesn't look as good as he probably did in his prime, which was a few years ago, he's still a very talented wide receiver. And it's, guys like Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson who have shown at times this year that they're capable of being good, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3s. Neither of them had a catch tonight. They locked them down. DK Metcalf only had 3 for 32 yards. The biggest yardage from a receiver, well, it wasn't even a receiver. It was Darnell Washington, their tight end. He was the guy that got, and that was all on one drive, I believe, 2 catches. So I thought they did a really, really good job. It doesn't matter. Like I said, the receiving corps isn't anything crazy, but they're still an NFL group where when you hold them to 117 total receiving yards, that's pretty good. That's something that you should be proud of. But talking about that play, Joey Bosa, like we said, he didn't do anything insane on that play. He kind of it was a coverage sack. The offensive lineman can only block a guy like Joey Bosa for so long, but he made the most of it, which is something that, especially these last few weeks, we haven't really seen Bosa even have opportunities to make a play like that. So it was nice to see him have that opportunity, make the play, and then Christian Benford was just in the right place at the right time. And again, he made the most of his opportunity, took it to the end zone. And that really was the turning point, especially because Aaron Rodgers was out for the next drive. And that led to another an interception, Christian Benford interception, and that led to another Bills score. And from that point, it just felt like Buffalo's got this.
I want to get to the Joey Bosa part of this in a minute, but going back to the coverage part of it, yes, the receivers weren't good, but the Steelers this year were top 7 in terms of tight end production with both receptions and receiving yards. They also have the second most tight end touchdowns this year. So, yes, on paper, it was DK Metcalf and a bunch of guys that you never have on a fantasy team, but the tight end group has been very good, and the Bills took that away. Now, that plays into the Bills' strength, too. This was strength versus strength. The Bills are number 1 by a lot when it comes to preventing tight end receptions, and that happened again in this game. And is it a very specific strength? Sure, but it's still a strength that's going to help you out. Exactly. And the Bills, when you went, good on good, they dominated. Like you said, there was one drive. They had one other tight end catch. Jonnu Smith had a 6-yarder. I don't remember when it was in the game. Irrelevant. Yeah. It was one drive where the Steelers did anything. And I think that was the drive where they failed on 4th down. We'll get to that play later on too. So when the Bills needed their strength to win, their strength won. And the Bosa part too, I want to talk about because you're right. This is exactly the play you bring this guy in for, to take a game and totally flip it on its head. Sure, it was a coverage sack, and it took him 5 seconds to get there. Regardless, he got there. He forced the fumble. It went back for a touchdown, and the Bills controlled the game from there. If you get one Joey Bosa play like that a month, your team is doing pretty good.
Yeah, like you said, that's why they brought him in, was to be that guy. You look at the Bills' defense these past few years, and even for a lot of this season, there hasn't really been that guy that you're like, the Bills need a play. This is the guy that's going to make it. You kind of hope that it was Von Miller when he was there, and he was kind of that for up and down.
Up until the injury in the Thanksgiving Day game. He was good for those 11 games.
And then it was just, nothing with, like you said, an injury. But Joey Bosa has been kind of up and down also this year. But that's the type of play that you brought him in to say, okay, we are down, what was it? It was 7-3 at that point.
Yep.
We're down 7-3. First play of the second half. We need something here. Go get us something. And Bosa said, I got you. And he did that. Like you said, it's a coverage sack. It wasn't him just making, an offensive lineman look silly or anything, but it was still what you expect. And like I said, past few weeks, we haven't really even seen that from Bosa. Like what we expect, we haven't seen. So to at least see that was, I think, a big step forward for what we could see for him down the rest of the year and potentially in a playoff push.
Let's not dismiss the part of this that is forcing the fumble. That's a skill.
Yes, yeah.
So you have to be able to do it. It's not a hard skill, but regardless, he still got it happen.
An old man Rodgers, but
regardless, well, that's part of it too. He made it happen, and he did it. He's got a bum wing himself, Joey Bosa. So it's not like he's 100% healthy. So we'll talk a little more about the defense probably later on. Let me flip to the other side of the ball because obviously the big story from this game is the run game for the Bills. All kinds of numbers and records and marks. So Bills ran for 249 as a team. That is the most ever at Acrisure Stadium, which is Pittsburgh's current building. Now, it only opened in 2001, so not this is a record over 1,000 years of time. It's a 25-year-old record. Still cool.
Yeah. It's
the most Pittsburgh has given up to anybody in 50 years. The last team to do it was, ironically, the Bills, who ran for 310 in week 2 of 1975. O.J. Simpson had 227 of that. I think most people have heard of him. James Cook had 32 rushes attempts, most of his career. That's actually 13th all-time in Bills history. There have been 12 more. It's not happened a lot in the 2000s, as you might imagine, but Fred Jackson had 33 carries in 2010. The Bills averaged 5 yards a carry. It wasn't just James Cook. Ray Davis had 62. Josh Allen had a number of big third down carries. And most of all, the Bills did all of this with 2 backup offensive tackles in this game. Caleb, the run game is still the fastball, and the fastball in this game was really fast.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, the most impressive part about that is that you're down guys. You're looking at this O-line. I mean, I went, I'll be honest, we did predictions earlier this week. And I think I was the only one that predicted Pittsburgh was going to win because I was so down on Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown being out. I was like, those are the main 2 guys. Them not there, that's going to affect, especially against a Pittsburgh team where they're going to want to run. That's going to affect that big time. It didn't affect it at all. If anything, they did better without them out there. It was insane. James Cook looked great. Like you said, Ray Davis, I like the fact that they're getting him more involved. I think that's really important, especially as we get further and further into the season to keep Cook healthy. And then Josh Allen, like you said, making a few big plays. One of those being a touchdown run that the offensive line kind of pushed him in, but his 76th career rushing touchdown, which passed Cam Newton for most in NFL history. And he's just getting started. He's still got plenty of time in his career.
He's going to get to 100.
Cross our fingers, knock on wood. But, all around, everywhere, the run game looked great today.
Let me get back to the ball carriers in a minute. When you talk about the offensive linemen, though, one of the things that helps is that, especially for Alec Anderson, but I think Ryan Vandermark too, both of those guys are more comfortable as run blockers than they are as pass blockers. Anderson, remember, last year was the guy who was the 6th offensive tackle, or the 6th offensive lineman, 3rd tackle, who played, 150, 200 snaps. So he had plenty of reps as a run blocker and is pretty darn good at that. So you allowed those guys to still operate from a position of strength. And especially because who they're going against too. You do not want to let Alex Highsmith and J.J. Watt pass rush on you. But if you make them, TJ Watt, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Wrong Watt. My apologies to the family.
Close enough.
Exactly. You do not want to let them pass rush on you, but if you can make them play run defense, certainly they like it less, but they're less talented at it. So all around, the run game was going to be a better way to approach not having both tackles in the game. And you need to have the game situation to do it. If the defense didn't play well and they were down 17-3 at half, you're not probably running the ball as much as you did in the second half. But regardless, the point I want to get to is that this was a really good Joe Brady game plan. That he not only came up with a way to take his backup tackles and make them more comfortable, he made the Bills' fastball as good as it's been all year. And then on top of that, even the passing stuff made sense. It was quick. It was out of the pocket fast. You didn't give whichever Watt brother it was and Highsmith an opportunity to pass rush. So of all the people getting flowers from this run game, I think Joe Brady's got to be close to the top of the list.
Yeah, they came into this game not only saying, hey, we got to focus on the run game. They came in saying, it's a run game. That's it. We're just going to run the ball. I think Allen finished with 123 passing yards.
Yes.
And like you said, most of them were very quick. It was very rare that we saw Allen back there for more than a few seconds. I think I made the point during the game that it was, if he was looking downfield at all, it was one read and then dump it off to Cook out on the side out of the backfield. It was very rare that he was going 1, 2, 3 reads. It was one, then go. And a lot of the times the first option was outside. Little dump offs to James Cook I think he was like the leading receiver.
He was
today,
3 for 33,
which is crazy. I don't mind it. Because he's probably the best playmaker outside of Josh Allen. So I don't mind it. Not a big day for the receivers. Obviously, your guys like Keon Coleman, he was back in. Brandon Cooks did get a catch earlier in the game, but those are guys that you expect to make plays downfield, and this just wasn't the day for that. So I'm not too upset about it. But I thought Allen did a really good job of just getting out quick. Dawson Knox had a good day in that game plan as well.
With the Josh Allen rushing part of this, I thought the Bills used it in good spots. They were all, I think, except for scrambles, they were all third down called runs.
I believe
the one
so,
for the touchdown, a couple on that drive that led to the field goal in the first half. So when you asked Josh Allen to be a runner, you did it on money downs. There's a part of me that wonders how much you want to rely on that going forward against playoff teams. And I don't know if Pittsburgh's going to be one of those. But when the Bills needed to find something, Josh Allen was unsurprisingly the answer, and they did it on the ground in this game. between him and Ray Davis, kind of taking a little bit of the slack off of James Cook, how much of this do we think is repeatable? Because as much as we want to say, hey, Ray Davis got some carries and that takes slack off of James Cook, Cook also had the most carries he's ever had in his NFL career.
Yeah.
This was because the whole running game was working. And before today, Ray Davis has been mostly a non-factor in the run game. Obviously, if Ray Davis can go 9 for 62, average 7 a pop, you want him to carry the ball more, but that hasn't happened a lot this year. How much of this do you think was Ray Davis actually playing well, or maybe he just got kind of caught up in the tidal wave of this run game dominating Pittsburgh in the second half?
I mean, I still do have the belief that Ray Davis is a high-quality backup running back with maybe a potential somewhere down the line to be like a decent starting back. So I do think that it's, when you use the word repeatable, I do think it's definitely repeatable. I don't think it is consistently repeatable. Like, I don't think we're going to see it every week now.
I think that's probably what I'm looking for with repeatable. Like, could it ever happen again? That's I don't know if people want to care about that. Yeah.
I don't think this is a thing that we're gonna see every single week. Just also because this was such a run-heavy game plan. Like, this was, I mean, it was actually kind of insane watching. It's just run play, and then how they were just able to continually find success in the run game. I don't think we're gonna see that again. I think you kind of have to get the receivers involved at some point because, like you said, I mean, Pittsburgh is a very good defense, but it doesn't matter who you're facing. Teams are going to adjust. And, I mean, teams that started to adjust midseason, and the Bills started to find kind of struggles in the run game, and now it's opened back up a little bit. I don't think it's going to stay open. They're going to have to find other avenues. But to be so dominant in a game like this, I think tells me that even if you have to go other areas, your run game is always going to be strong.
And that's what the Bills, I think, need to rely on.
Yes.
You know, if you want to talk about something to pull from this game and to say, you know what, this is the reason why I feel a little bit better about the Bills, it's the fact they were able to have this run game in the back. And I think we've known for the last 2 years this is possible. This is not a shock. But it was a reminder that, look, we can still do this. We can still, because there have been weeks lately where the run game hasn't been anywhere near this good or this dominant or take this much control of a football game. So the fact the Bills prove, yeah, we still got this, I think is certainly encouraging. Let's talk about the receivers for a minute. Brandon Cooks gets the catch on the first drive.
Yeah.
Look at that, instant impact, converts a first down. Good for him. His only catch of the game. Outside of that, there was no receiver other than Keon Coleman who had more than one catch. Keon had 9 yards on 2 catches. Gabe Davis, Khalil Shakir, each 1 for 5. It was a great game where the Bills didn't need to throw it. They actually almost averaged more yards rushing the ball than they did throwing, which is kind of crazy. But the bigger problem with this team that the receivers are not producing, we kind of get the paper over that with what happened with the run game in this one.
Yeah, I think how dominant the run game is definitely going to kind of have a shadow over this receiving core. I don't want it to go, I don't want us to start being like, oh, I think the receiving core is fine because of look at how good the run game. No, the receiving core is still not fine. It's very much not fine. Like you said, Keon Coleman back from his his benching, 2 catches, 9 yards, a touchdown. The touchdown play was nothing special.
Any receiver in the NFL could have made that
play. He literally
yeah.
just ran right to the back of the end zone and then kind of jogged across the back. Allen made a spectacular play, hit him in the back of the end zone. I honestly don't even remember what his other catch was. I don't think it was
late in the game, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it was anything crazy in garbage time. So whatever.
It was also for 1 yard, by the way, because the touchdown was 8.
But when you've got 2 running backs leading the team in top 3 in the team in receiving yards and receptions, I think that's good for this game with this game plan, because the game plan was we're going to utilize the running backs, whether it's running the ball or out of the backfield, catching the ball, making plays upfield, getting them into open space. James Cook had a few really nice, open space. Josh Allen said in the post-game press conference, it's not often that James Cook gets tackled by the first guy, and when you have him on the outside, that gives you that opportunity to break one. But just looking forward, I'm still very concerned about what these receivers can produce downfield.
To be fair, Dalton Kincaid and Josh Palmer didn't play in this game. Certainly Kincaid has been a primary part of this passing game. And the Bills didn't need it. They were running the ball so dang well in the second half, it didn't matter. But there was a whole first half. And you and I were talking about it watching the game where it felt like the Bills had next to no answers on offense. That field goal drive where it was Josh Allen run on third down, a leak out to Ty Johnson on third down, those were the money plays. That was your go-to play in that spot. And yeah, Dalton Kincaid didn't play, but Shakir played. Gabe Davis is now on the 53. He's apparently part of the passing game going forward.
Yeah.
He played, and these guys didn't have hardly any impact. So the larger problems that we've seen from this team, again, felt like you could just ignore them for today because the run game was so good. And maybe that's how the Bills have to play, that the run game has to be so good that you don't have to worry about this part of the game. It's a pipe dream to think you're going to make it through January that way.
Yeah.
But can you make it through one game in January that way? I think you probably can.
But is that the goal, to make it through one game in January? That shouldn't be. I mean, we've talked since the Bills have kind of, encountered their struggles this season. We've talked about what the new goals are. I think obviously in that locker room, the goal is still to win a Super Bowl. Outside the locker room, it's maybe make the playoffs and win a game. But you're definitely not making 3-4 games in January. You're definitely not making a Super Bowl in February if you're focusing 100% on that run game.
How cool do you think the Josh Allen record is? Just kind of knee jerk. Like you said,
the 76 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's probably far from done. That number that he's already broken it before age 30, like he's going to put that number in a place where nobody will touch it.
He's going to get up there. He's going to get real high up there. And I think it's also impressive because he's just this kind of archetype of quarterback that we see try to get replicated that just hasn't successfully. It's been Cam Newton and Josh Allen, and that kind of style of quarterback, those are the only two that have really perfected it. You bring in Anthony Richardson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields. Those are all guys that you were like, that's the next Cam Newton, that's the next Josh Allen, and they've all kind of faded. So the fact that Allen has been so successful in what he's been doing, I really think just attests to how great of a player he is. I see the 76 and it's almost just kind of expected because of what we've seen from him so far. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around just how big that number is, and just like you said, how big that number is going to get.
I think the skeptic will fairly point out that a number of quarterback sneaks have been a part of this.
Whatever.
But the thing I'll say to that is Josh Allen has proven that he is the unlock key in the red zone, which cannot be understated. How much of a cheat code it is to have that guy to finish off runs. And maybe, there's a warning here about the Bills should not try and use that as often as they can, avoid using it, I should say, as often as they can. But regardless, the fact that he can solve that he can make that happen in the red zone might be the number one thing that you go down when you talk about Josh Allen, what he was as a player. The fact he can do that, and he can do it with his arm too, that might be the best attribute he's had as an NFL player.
Why is it, my question though is, why is it such a problem if some of his are, 1, 2, 3 yard QB sneak touchdown runs, when how many, you look at some of the top running backs, some of the top running back numbers in history, how many of those were within the 5-yard line, were short runs where they just powered up the middle?
It's a fair point.
I mean, if we're going to say that to quarterbacks, we got to say that for running backs too.
I think we look at it as that's the running back's job. And also he starts from further back, so there's more time for the defense to play. I think the quarterback sneak kind of feels like a cheating play. It's not, but you know what I'm saying? That
I do.
The
I do get what you're saying.
Forward.
I'm just trying to argue.
Yeah. The other thing too about that run, and I want to bring this up real quick, I really hate that play where the offensive lineman push. Yeah. Just my point of view is when a running back is, say, 5-6 yards downfield, like Josh Allen was, when the offensive linemen get there to push, they get a head of steam to get there and push that player from behind that the defense cannot match. Defensive linemen would have to run around to the other side of the pile and then take all that momentum and flip it around. There's no way you're going to be able to match that. That is such a, you want to talk about a cheat. That is such a cheat play for the offense, because the only way the defense can really stop it, other than getting the guy to the ground, is by flying in and taking out knees, which no one with a heart wants to do, a heart or a brain, frankly, wants to do in an NFL game. So not that that's not even part of the Josh Allen record. That's just a general football thing right now that I've really come to kind of hate that play.
I think the other thing about those type of plays that we spoke about during the game was when a guy, it doesn't matter if it's Josh Allen, it doesn't matter who it is, when a play like that happens and the runner is kind of lifted into the air a little bit by the O-line, that always makes me nervous that, all it takes is him to come down on an ankle weird or someone to come down on his ankle weird. That's all it takes and his season's done. So that always scares me a little bit. We haven't seen injuries like that too much in the NFL, but it seems like a type of play. I think you made this point. It seems like a type of play where there should be more injuries.
And it might only take one, to get people to change. I really think they should take that out right now. Let's go back to the defensive side of the ball. Other guys who impressed. The Greg Rousseau tackle on the 4th and 2 run was one I wanted to spotlight because, frankly, that's a play the Steelers should have no business running because I've seen Rousseau take that away 1,000 times. The Bills love to collapse their defensive ends on short runs because Rousseau is so long and so strong. He stays in front of the block and can get in the way, and he absolutely smothered that play. Kenneth Gainwell, I'm pretty sure, who had the run on that one, had zero chance. And as a larger point, the Bills' much maligned run defense, 18 carries, 58 yards, 3.2 a carry. Because of how big the run offense was, it won't get the shine it deserves. But the Bills' run D was a really big part of keeping Pittsburgh in the ballpark until the run offense figured it out later.
Yeah, that play was huge. And that's kind of, like you said, that's been Rousseau's bread and butter his whole career. That's kind of just been what he does. And he's kind of been that guy this season and even this game where you're not going to see him make too many big splash plays. But when he does, they're impactful. I mean, if Pittsburgh converts that 4th down and they're able to put in a touchdown
and a 2,
it's then an 8-point game. I think if they get it now, and there's still 10 minutes left. Even if they don't get a 2, it's a 9-point game with 10 minutes left. Plenty of time for them to get two possessions out of it. So that was a huge game. And then the offense was able to just, because they got the ball back, they were able to just waste 9 minutes off the clock. And then by that point, they put up another field goal, make it a 19-point game, and it was just game over at that point. So that really was the game-sealing play right there. Obviously, some of the runs later down or maybe the field goal or whatever, those are the technical game-sealing plays, but I do believe that tackle for loss on 4th down by Greg Rousseau was the point where, okay, game's over.
Bills as a team prevented 6 of 9 third down attempts by the Steelers.
It's big.
Stopped 1 on 4th down. 18 minutes of possession time for Pittsburgh in this game. The numbers for the Bills defense, just top to bottom, were really, really good. And look, Pittsburgh is not very good at much, so this is not even defensively, offensively taking a great team and stopping them. But regardless, they're still an NFL team at 6-6. This is not the Jets or the Saints or the Giants. This was a decent team in their building too. So this was a heck of a performance by this defense. One of the guy, Shaq Thompson, team leader with 9 tackles in this game. Is Shaq Thompson, real quick, a guy that you might want to see play more no matter what Terrell Bernard's health status is?
Yes. I'm gonna say at least around the same levels that he's playing right now. I think he deserves the opportunities. I think he's shown that he is a reliable player out there. You know, he's not we've seen him make a couple really good plays this year, but he's not like a huge highlight guy. But with some of the play that you've been getting out of those linebackers this year, just having a guy out there that you can rely on is huge for the defense. And that's exactly what Shaq Thompson has been pretty much every single down he's played for the Bills this year.
Last couple minutes here. Let's take the temperature of Sean McDermott, because there were a number of Bills fans that wanted him tarred and feathered and shot out of a cannon this week, along with Brandon Beane, perhaps at the same time. This was a heck of a bounce back win. Gets the Bills season kind of back on the rails. Maybe not, look, no one's buying Super Bowl tickets, but they are still very much a playoff favorite. And that was big with Houston winning today too.
Let's see the Bills continue. I mean, all season long, I've been talking about consistency. That's like the big thing I want to see from them. I don't need to see Buffalo as a Super Bowl caliber team, like at that level. I just need them to consistently play like a playoff team for me to feel better. So let's see them consistently play as a playoff team against the Bengals next week, against the Patriots in a few weeks, and against the Eagles in 4 weeks. Like, let's see them continue to play. Because like you said, Pittsburgh isn't great. They're 6-6. They're kind of middle of the road. They've had their ups and downs this year, but they're not this team that you're like, we just dominated that offense. No one really cares. Let's see you dominate the Joe Burrow Bengals offense, and then we'll have a conversation.
I don't think they'll dominate that offense, but if you can win that game, and let's say you play this game, but kind of in reverse, where you don't really take away the passing offense, but you can win it. Keep in mind, the Bills don't have a 2-game winning streak this year that doesn't involve the Jets or the Dolphins or the Saints or the Panthers. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati in back-to-back weeks.
That'd be good.
That, to me, is a consistent, okay, we're back heading in the right direction. And this is still very much a team that's been able to put together big runs at the end of the year. All right, that's good.